What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I am bringing you my updated first place Marincess deck profile. I just took it to locals yesterday and we did manage to take first place and win this awesome Joker mat. I think this is the art for Joker Wild from like the Arcana stuff that came out in King's Court a while back. And yeah, like this deck is a deck I've been enjoying so much. Like I just find myself constantly wanting to play Marincess, and it's been one of the most fun I've had like playing a deck in a minute. And I just really want to talk about the list and what changed between this one and my last first place list. And yeah, just all things Marincess, because truly I just enjoy this deck so much. It's so fun, and I think it's just really good. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about in the deck. So yeah, before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know, Discord link down below along with all of our other social media links if you want to follow the channel more closely. Also, I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh content here, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out in what I do here on the channel. So without further ado, let's get into this Marincess deck profile. Alright, so starting out, we're going to start out, of course, with our Marincess monsters, which has, like, the lineup has changed pretty drastically since the last time I did a profile. So we're starting with the 3 Blue Tang, which of course we're going to max out 3 of her. She is our best starter, and Blue Tang is honestly so broken. Like, she takes the best parts of Salamangreat and puts it into one card. Like, she is the effective Gazelle to send from deck for a Marincess monster. And then also when she is linked for a water link monster, she reveals the top 3 like a Foxy, and you can add a Marincess card. And what's really good about that add is a couple of things. If it hits, like it can change the line you're going for based on the extender you see, or like which spell you potentially see, so you can search the other thing with Sea Angel. It can chain block your Marincess link monsters like Blue Slug or Sea Angel as well. But also, like, it means she's a 1-card starter that can play around hand traps, which is actually insane. Like, and it comes up more and more often. Like, people will hand trap Blue Tang to stop her send, which would stop you from getting to the extender you need potentially. But then she can hit it off of her mill anyways, and she's linking for something like a Sea Angel, which is like full combo regardless. So having 1-card starters that play through hand traps are insane, is one of the most powerful things about Marincess, and Blue Tang is just the best one of them all. Then we have our 3 Spring Girl, which this has been up to 3 since my last list. I was playing 2 before, along with 2 of another card, which I'll get to. But Spring Girl, I've essentially upped a lot of the level 4 Marincess monsters because I'm no longer on Crossout Designator, because that card is just not very good. Like, it's great for stopping Nibiru, but the card itself can find itself being very dead or cloggy or not doing anything some games. So I'm going for the engine actually being able to play around Nibiru itself, and that is through access to Bahamut Shark. And having more level 4 Marincess means you're going to see Bahamut Shark more, and therefore play around Nibiru more. And Spring Girl is just a fantastic extender that can help you play through interrupts, and she's just the extender Marincess always needed, being able to essentially extend past any pop on normal summon or hard, you know, interrupts like Gamma, anything like that. Spring Girl is here to help with, and she's something I'm now maxing at 3, mostly because she's level 4, but also she can chain block Sea Angel, and she actually provides you a time win condition, which is pretty nifty. 3 Marincess Seahorse, our beautiful Starlight rares. Marincess Seahorse is still one of the most important starters, and one of the Marincesses I want to maximize because she is like a full play on her own. Like, she is, I don't want to say anymore that she's better than Spring Girl because she's level 3. Like, and 3 is such an awkward level because it doesn't actually do anything but help you link climb. However, the thing about Seahorse is she's one of the only 1-card starters that guarantees you field spell if you want to go that route. Like, if you start with Spring Girl, we'll say you have to get dive off Sea Angel. But with Seahorse, you can go for 1-card combo with the Splash Mage and still get your field spell, which is really good. So it just depends which route you want to go. I do think Seahorse and Blue Tang are the only starters that guarantee you field spell, because the other starters have to search dive. So yeah, Seahorse is still very nice for that, and she's one of the best Marincess monsters, and I want to see a Marincess monster, so we are maximizing her still at 3. Alright, next up, that's going to be kind of an interesting one and something you don't see in most Marincess lists. I am currently playing 3 Pascalis. And I was playing 2 of this before with 2 Spring Girl in my last first place list. And some people were like, why are you playing 2 Pascalis? That's a lot, especially when this deck was just coming back into the spotlight. But honestly, like, the fact that she's level 4 is insane because there are so many 3-card combos with her that lead you into making Bahamut Shark on like summon 4 and then Toad on summon 5. And that's huge for trying to play around Nibiru, first of all. But also, she is the best Marincess monster in Grave by far. Like, having her in Graveyard is so good, and it can be game winning because it essentially means the first action in your main phase can be adding back Wave from Graveyard on the follow-up. And that is huge because it means you're going into a board trying to break it on like turn 3 where you can have unaffected monsters, which makes it hard for your opponent to interrupt, but also you get a free negate. And that is very, very powerful. And her ability to add back things like wave, dive, and the field spell are just huge. Like, I feel like my turn 3s are infinitely better every time I have Pascalis engraved. So I think she's the best Marincess engraved. She's also an extender that can play through snow, which is huge because snow is such a problem for like Cyburst decks in general. Being able to extend past snow or a Mirror Jade is huge, and Pascalis really helps you do that, which is why I like her so much. The only downside is when you see 2 Marincess monsters exclusively in your hand, and they're both named Marincess Pascalis, because for some reason she can't special summon herself, yet Blue Tang can add herself, but I digress. I think she is amazing, and there's a lot of lines, especially when you draw a lot of engine, where you can dump her from deck with Tang, and then bring her back with the Anemone, and just extend into Bahamut Shark even harder. I think Pascalis is amazing and something I've definitely liked at 3. Last Marincess monster is the 1 Sleepy Maiden, and you are forced to play this card. Another one of that people often play is the Mandarin, and I was playing that in my last list, and technically you could cut a Pascalis for a Mandarin. Personally, I don't think Mandarin is super amazing. Again, 1 is a super awkward level, and while she is a great extender sometimes, like, I don't feel starting with her is particularly better than starting with Pascalis. Back to Sleepy Maiden, she is a 1-of, and she's the only Marincess that's not combo on herself because she's the awkward level of 5, but Sleepy Maiden is super important for when you open like just Blue Tang, because 1 card Blue Tang combo is, it's important to dump Maiden because she will get you wave and you'll still end Argonaut with a spell or trap negate. The real reason you play this isn't because she's an extender, but because of her grave effect that lets you equip a Marincess Link. It is super, super vital to be able to equip something to Argonaut if you don't have field spell, and you can go for dive more often if you have access to this card. Now, another nifty thing about her is her protection effect, which doesn't really come up for a lot of things. And actually because you're always linking off her, right? So her most effective use is like having her, and then you make Anemone, and then you can special this targeting Anemone, and then Anemone is safe from Ghost Ogre, which is one of the most impactful hand traps against this deck. I would say like Nibiru's the most impactful hand trap, and then second is Gamma on a normal summon where you can't play past it, but third is definitely Ghost Ogre on Anemone, and if you special Sleepy Maiden targeting Anemone, you are safe from Ghost Ogre entirely. Which is huge because it allows you to keep extending, and then you're less weak to Ghost Ogre. You still have to watch out on your Link 3 because that would stink, but it really hurts on Anemone in my opinion. Yeah, being able to sort of protect yourself from Ghost Ogre is very nice. Alright, that is it for Marincess monsters. It comes out to 13 main deck Marincess monsters. On to the extender package, and I think this is one of the most interesting things and most unsolved things about Marincess, and there's so many different ways you can go that I'm going to talk about them. But first I'm going to show what extending package I'm playing, and I am currently on the 3 Silent Sea Nettle. And I think Sea Nettle's an amazing card to talk about him specifically right now. Mostly because it is very easy to use this in a lot of your 3-card combos, which can be done in a bunch of different ways that lead to Bahamut Shark totally awesome before Summon 5. But this is also a very unrestrictive extender. Like, you just have to control a water monster. You don't have to control only water monsters. It doesn't suck to draw 2 of this and no other monster because you can make a rank 4 with just them. And like, it's such an easy extender that can help you play through interruptions or make Bahamut Shark. But also its grave effect is actually insane. Like, it's not something 100% needed for the deck, but it is very, very nice to be able to recycle a bunch of extra deck cards in your graveyard, because that is where Marincess will lose its steam if it's going to lose its steam, is like you will go through your extra deck very, very quickly. And Nettle being able to put stuff back is great. Now, I want to talk about the other options here because I think there's a bunch of different ones. So first of all, you could play, just grabbing an example here, you could play the Swap Frogs with the Ronin Totems and run the Swap Frog package. My issue with that is Ronin Totem's a huge brick. And also, like, your lines with Swap Frog are weird because while he's great at making Toad without Bahamut Shark is actually unusual, because oftentimes that Bahamut Shark is the extra extender needed to like link climb. And with Swap Frog, you don't really get that. And a lot of his combos play into Nibiru, so I tried Swap Frog, but I don't really like him because he doesn't make Bahamut Shark into Toad, which Bahamut Shark into Toad is better than making Toad raw. And he also plays into Nibiru more with his most optimal combo. So unless you're opening him plus another frog, he's sort of subpar. Another thing is the Silent Anglers with the Abyss Sharks in this slot. And I think Abyss Shark is so much more powerful than Nettle. but Abyss Shark has some of the worst wording in Yu-Gi-Oh history. His ad is attached to his summon, which means 1, he can be Ash Blossomed and you get nothing. 2, if you don't have a Silent Angler in your deck, you cannot even attempt to activate him. And that comes up very big with another card we're playing, and why I opt to play the Nettle over this. Another bad thing is, like, if you open 2 Abyss Shark, right? Like the example I gave where you can open 2 Silent Sea Nettles and still make a play. If you open 2 Abyss Shark, you've just opened 2 bricks, which is tough. But I do think Abyss Shark inherently is more powerful, and that's sort of the thing where I don't think it's solved. Like, do Marincess go with the line where you're trading consistency for power, where you get to run something as strong as Abyss Shark, and that's really good for your deck because it gives your deck extra oomph. Because, you know, your end board isn't anything super unfair, and Abyss Shark can help you extend harder and things like that. Or do you take the consistency of Nettle, which doesn't have a downside, has a cool grave effect, doesn't have the restrictive summon of like Angler or Abyss Shark, where if you get nibbed, like Abyss Shark is toast unless you have area, and then also being able to be ashed and stuff like that. Like, I'm personally taking the more consistent route with the Nettle, but that's also for another reason that I'll get to when I get to the spells, and why I don't play the Abyss Sharks. But that's why I'm running Sea Nettle in this build. I think the extending package you play in Marincess, I think you only play 1, either Swap or Angler or Nettle, and the reasons you choose it need to be, you know, good reasons, and I feel like it's one of the unsolved things with Marincess at this point. Alright, that's it for engine monsters. On to engine spells. We're going to have the 1 Battle Ocean, in the 2 Marincess Dive. I'm not playing 3 of this card because the thing about Marincess spells and traps is they don't actually help you start playing. Like, there have been so many hands where I see Dive, like Sea Nettle, and like 3 flex spots, and it's not playable. And the same thing is to be said with Battle Ocean. Unless you open both of these together, they don't help you play, and that can make your bad hands very bad. They're essentially bricks without engine, so I don't want to see it too often, but it is nice to see it as a hit off Blue Tang. Like, when you Blue Tang into Sea Angel, Chainlink 1 Angel, Chainlink 2 Blue Tang, and Blue Tang finds you either one of these, it's always nice with Sea Angel being able to search the other one, so it's super good. Marincess Dive is one of the best cards that help this deck essentially play. Like, I think it's probably the most important card they got because it gives Sea Angel something actually good to search, which makes every Marincess monster a starter. And yeah, that is why we're playing this ratio instead of 3, but you definitely, you know, this is a ratio I think a lot of people are on, actually. And then the 1 Marincess Wave for the last Marincess card in the deck. Yeah, Wave is insane. Wave is one of the most broken engine traps in the game. Like, this card is so recyclable, which is I think what makes it super good in the grind, especially against certain matchups. But the unaffected part is obscene, very broken, actually just a phenomenal effect. And this is one of the most important things, like, your engine is going to net you. The engine reward for playing Marincess is essentially totally awesome, plus a spell of trap negate, plus Marincess Wave. And in your hands that were all engine, you can end with a Stealth Kraken plus that. But yeah, Marincess Wave is probably one of the best parts about this deck, and you don't want to play multiple because if you see it going second, you're going to cry because this card is actually inherently just garbage. Like, it doesn't do anything without engine, and it doesn't help you play into a board unless you're already established. And it's not an interrupt going second, so that is why we're on the 1 Wave, and I wouldn't really want to play more than 1, except for another reason I'm going to get to very soon, sort of the same reason for the Silent Angler stuff. Sort of the last, I guess, well, not the last, but more engine essentially is the 3 Signet Mining, the 1 Disgusting Ultra because my 3rd secret won't come in the mail. But yeah, Signet Mining is essentially just more copies of Blue Tang, so you can't really go wrong there. But it can also be Spring Girl or Seahorse, depending on which extender you need for what situation. The only Marincess it can't be is Sleepy Maiden, so there's often times where you can use this to like search Paschalus and extend further if you want to. But it's really nice being able to discard a Cyburst monster and then add Spring Girl because it helps you play around like the Book of Moon on normal summon. But I'm not gonna lie, I end up siding this out going second a lot because I'd just rather, like, I'll use the 6th card to be more of my engine, and then I'd rather see a really good card in the place of Signet Mining, because this card isn't as good in this deck as it is in something like Salamangreat. But you do need to play the 3 main deck. I'm pretty confident in that. The card I've been talking about and sort of the reason for some of my choices is the 2 Pot of Desires. Now, this is something where I was talking about the Silent Sea Nettles. Another reason I can play this as my extending package over something like the Silent Anglers is because Desires and Abyss Shark play so poorly together, because if you banish both of your Silent Anglers, Abyss Shark is unusable, which I just think is so disgusting. I do not like that Abyss Shark's ad is part of his special summon. So instead of playing the 2 Silent Angler and the 3 Abyss Shark, I'm playing the 3 Silent Sea Nettle and 2 Pot of Desires. It's sort of like 5-card extra extender package. And I didn't think I would like Desires in this deck, and I'm still not 100% sold on it because of the 1 of Marincess Wave, the 1 of Battle Ocean, the 1 of Sleepy Maiden. You have a few 1-ofs, But it usually isn't make it or break it if you don't have those cards, but when you need to activate activate Desires, it pretty much was a make it or break it moment. And this card overperformed yesterday. Like, I was banishing almost nothing important. I banished Wave one time, and I banished 3 Blue Tang one time. But other than that, it was drawing insane. I was like either finishing my combo and seeing 2 flex spots, or I opened unplayable, and then this helped me see playable. And yeah, Desires was nuts. So, and just for the simple fact that I don't think it plays well with Abyss Shark is another reason I really like the Sea Nettles in this variant with the Desires over the Abyss Shark and Angler. Like, you really have to make the decision for yourself which one you like more, but personally, if I continue to like Desires, I'll keep running Silent Sea Nettle. If I don't like Desires, I might go back to Abyss Shark. But yeah, that Desires is an insane card in this deck because besides Wave, honestly, you don't care about any of the things you banish. I mean, sometimes Field Spell, but you can win without Field Spell. All right, on to flex spots. We are running, of course, the 3 Ash Blossom. Nothing interesting to say here. This is just, you know, the best hand trap. I mean, with Despia, you know, having fallen off a little bit, you know, it's definitely not maybe the best, but this is still super impactful versus so many things. Then I'm on 2 Ghost Ogre, which this is going to seem weird because Ghost Ogre's fallen off. I was playing one of this as a Designator target in my last list, but I still decided to play this without Designator. I just think this card is insane. Personally, I think Brave Dragon Link's the best deck this format, and this card destroys Dragon Link and Brave. And honestly, the reason this destroying Brave and Brave coming back so hard into the meta these last couple of months, I think Ghost Ogre is just phenomenal in that regard because the one card outing the Brave engine is huge for so many reasons, but also things like Boot Sector Launch. If you play against Drytron, this hitting Fafnir is great. This on Xiamen in some hands against like Punk decks is just game, which I think is super insane. So I've been having I've been really liking Ghost Ogre. I think she's overperformed for what I expected her to do. And most importantly, unlike a card like Imperm, you can draw this off your Heat Soul, Old Bubble Reef, and still have an interrupt. And then we have 2 Effect Veiler, which, you know, might be an odd number, but it's really a space issue. Like, I can't fit any more hand traps, and for the same reason we're on 2 Nibiru. I took out Infinite Impermanence despite it being like a better card than most of these hand traps because you can draw it as a 6th. And that's mostly for the Heat Soul reason. Like, I don't even go Bubble Reef that often, but when I do, I really want to make sure I optimize my chance to see a playable hand trap. So that is why I'm choosing to run Effect Veiler over Infinite Impermanence. And these ratios are sort of a space thing. Like, I still feel like Ash is the hand trap I want to max at 3 over the others. And these can sort of be played at 2 just fine. Even though I'd want to play more, I just don't have the space. So I believe that's 9 hand traps. But we do run more Go Second cards. So the most important Go Second card is definitely the 3 Forbidden Droplet. And this is a 40 card list, and I keep saying in either to my friends or to deck profiles, the reason that I am running 40 instead of something like 41, which is fine for like still seeing Engine a good amount, is I want to see Forbidden Droplet. Like, this deck in particular has a tougher time going second, and Cyburst decks in general do because they are so weak on their normal summon that it can be very hard to play through interruptions. And something like Droplet is huge for being able to out a board or out like a Fairy Tale Snow coming out of the graveyard. Anything like that, like especially things like Fairy Tale Snow or Sure Egg that, you know, Dark Ruler aren't really going to save you because they're coming out later and you need to be able to change something like a Forbidden Droplet to them. But yeah, Droplet is insane. And you do have engine traps, and by engine traps, because I'm realizing we took out Imperm, we have 1 trap we can pitch off this, which is super important against decks like Drytron or Dinomorphia. But yeah, Droplet is just absolutely insane, and we are definitely maximizing it at 3. And then we have the one-ofs. We have the 1 Called by the Grave. This card should be banned. I hate this card. It actually just won me a game straight up yesterday. But actually lost me a game too because it hit my Totally Awesome. And I hate that games are decided on this one-of card, so this card should be banned. But we're going to play it as long as it's legal, which knowing Konami will be forever. 1 Monster Reborn. This is something really, like, good because it sort of acts like Cross-Out Designator where I can play around Nibiru because, like, you know, you can just bring back what they hit if it was the Link 4, or if they do it on Anemone Summon, you can bring back Anemone. And yeah, like, this card is super good for playing around Nibiru, but this, unlike Designator, is just like naturally a good card. Like, it can take, you know, anything in their graveyard, like really good cards like Barone, but also just help you keep playing, unlike a card like Designator, which if they don't have a hand trap is just trash, but this card's like always good. So yeah, 1 Monster Reborn. And then 1 Cosmic Cyclone, which, shout out to Cosmic Cyclone, it won me a game yesterday because I played against Zombies round 1, and game 1 he went first and opened Zombie World Rivalry, and I just chained Cosmic on his Zombie World, and that sort of wrapped up that game. But this is really here for Mystic Mine. I feel like if you're running as many flex spots as you can fit in Marincess, and you're choosing not to run it out to Mystic Mine, something went wrong in deck building. And we're playing this over something like a Harpy's Feather Duster because this is an amazing interrupt. When you go first, you just set it, and it can hit so many good cards. Disc Coliseum, Fafnir, the field spell Fafnir, it can hit like Engage, it can hit the Drytron Ritual spell. And yeah, it really helps you with some back row matchups having a main deck as well. But yep, those are the 1-ofs, 40 card list. On to the extra deck, which has changed a little bit. We have the 2 Blue Slug, and Blue Slug is still, you know, one of your starters. Like, you're always going to play at least 2 of this. And then we have the 1 Sea Angel, and I had a list playing 2 of this, but I'll show something in the extra deck. There's still 1 flex spot, or maybe even 2 flex spots in this extra deck that I'm just not sure about. The extra deck can always use some more like fine tuning, but we're on 1 Sea Angel for now. The second one does come up every now and then, but this card, especially in my list where I'm running 3 Silent Sea Nettle, I felt like it was okay to play 1 of this because you can just put it back with Nettle. Then we have the 2 Coral Anemone, and this card, of course, is one of the most pivotal points of your deck, and there's no space for 3 in my opinion, and you'd rather run other stuff, but definitely at least 2. No Crystal Heart for Link 2, still following that sort of philosophy as my last deck profile, which since I've uploaded that profile, I've seen a lot of people actually take the advice and not play Crystal Heart. Like on DB, I've seen many people not have Crystal Heart at all, and then Winter Kills, shout out to him, he also decided not to play it. So, you know, definitely Crystal Heart leaving the main deck is something I'm still fine with. Maybe in the future she might come back, but I still don't think it's needed. The 1 Coral Triangle and the 1 Marbled Rock, these are your important Link 3s, and Coral Triangle just wins so many games. Like, even when I already hard draw the trap, first turn I'll still make her, just to have her Grave effect because it is insane and game winning, especially if your opponent doesn't play around it. The 1 Aqua Argonaut and the 1 Bubble Reef. I actually had a list playing Wonderheart recently, just as another Link 4 I could go into. She technically could still come in, but I just don't think she's very good, so these are our only Link 4s. Then we have the Area and the Splash Mage. These are sort of like our flex Link 2s. Splash Mage, I think you have to play still just because of starting with Seahorse. You need this to have 1 card combo with Seahorse. Area was more important when I had the list with Triple Tactics Talent because you could take their monsters and make Area. Now she essentially is like really good for Mirror Match, and if you need to get a Nibiru token or like an Ibli or a Dino token off your field, like she comes up for that. So Area is, you know, she's good, but I don't think she's 100% needed, and she's technically a flex spot in my eyes, unless you're running something like Triple Tactics Talents or Abyss Shark, in which she is very, very important. Next up, we have Stealth Kraken. Honestly, like an MVP yesterday while I was playing. This card is so good at like clearing boards. Like, I took the access code package out if that wasn't apparent by the no transcode or access code. But yeah, like this really helps at clearing boards, and his burn effect is super good too. I've won games with it because like he just did the extra bit of damage I needed. But him like turning your opponent's stuff into water is really good for Gozen Match in the side deck as well, but also against Salamangreat or certain matchups where their stuff being water is like tough. Interestingly enough, I actually decided to play the Kraken Spawn because in my testing on DB, there were some times I wanted this card where this would die and just having to follow up with Kraken Spawn was insane, but this didn't come up yesterday. It was only like a 4-round locals, so, you know, it wasn't a lot of testing physically with this card. He's come up on DB, but honestly, I think that maybe Abyss Dweller would be better over this card, and the argument for Dweller is that Dweller's insane. It's a really good card. It gives all your guys a 500 attack boost, or I should say all your girls. Yeah, and that's really great, and Dweller is amazing, but the issue with this deck, and the reason Kraken Spawn is much different than Dweller as an option, is you really only ever make 2 different rank 4s, and they're probably always going to be Bahamut Shark and Stealth Kraken, depending on the situation. This isn't a rank 4 you actually make, it just comes out for free. Like, my worry is if I run Dweller, I'm still only ever going to go Stealth Kraken or Bahamut Shark, and I'll just have a Dweller in my extra deck doing nothing, because I'm either not making it or, you know, it just didn't come up. But Kraken Spawn will come up regardless of if I actually make it because I'm going to make Stealth Kraken. So that's sort of some ideas there, but I do think Dweller's an option. And then, of course, we have the Bahamut Shark and the Totally Awesome. I mean, you have to play this. This is the engines out for Nibiru. It's also one of the biggest parts of the engine's payoff is the fact that all their interrupts are follow-up, and that is super good. Sort of like Dragon Maid. Speaking of a deck I also upload a lot. Yeah, so this package is something you have to play. And with Silent Sea Nettle, I've actually been able to go into it twice, which is super funny. You just use the entire package, Nettle put it back, make it again. It's very, that's the most impressive thing this deck can do, to be honest. I guess I'll show my side deck relatively quickly. I'm not sure I like my side deck very much, and the order is a little rough in it, but showing what I played yesterday, at least we have our field centers here. We got the Spy Brigade and the Water Enchantress, so yeah, shout out to Amanda LaPalme for these awesome field centers. And then for the side deck, we have the 3 Droll and Lockbird. I think this does need to be in your side. It's just like too good this format against all the Punk stuff, the Dragon Link stuff, the Drytrons. I mean, those are like the main ones, but also if they didn't open D-Shifter, this card destroys Floowandereeze, which is huge. And if you're facing Despia and they're still on the Allure of Darkness and Mercurier version, which I've seen trending a little bit more upwards, it like fell off very hard, but I've seen a couple people play it again. This is also very good versus those. So Droll and Lockbird, definitely a super good card. And then we have the 2 DD Crow, sort of respecting Despia. This deck has an awful time versus Despia, which is why we are respecting it a little bit, despite its fall off in popularity. Yeah, essentially, Mirror Jade is a pain, and even more of a pain is branded in red with Guardian Chimera popping your stuff, so Crow is insane. Also, this just has matchups where it's amazing, like Sky Striker, Banishing Engage is huge, or Banishing Ray. Those are like some of the there's so many matchups where this comes up, so not to list any specific, but like Drytron as well. And then we have 2 Evenly Matched, which is an out to back row, but also monster board, so I like that it double downs like versus certain matchups. The 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and the 1 Twin Twister. This is sort of all the back row I could fit, like the back row hate. So I did decide that 1 Twin Twister would be in here as an extra oomph to back row. We're remaining the Cosmic. So we have like 5 potential back row hate cards, and this deck's really weak to back row in my opinion, so I do want these. But the reason the ratios like this is more of a space thing. Yes, and then we have some Go First cards, which I played more Go First cards in this list than I guess than normal, but I think Marincess actually wants some Go First cards because it already is maining so many Go Second cards. We have the 2 Crossout Designator. I decided to side it. I still think it's worth siding, especially if I'm playing against another hand trap deck like Salad or a Mirror Match, and I know I'm going to get Nibiru'd. Crossout is just an extra card to hit Nibiru. Then we have 2 Mistaken Arrest. I still love this card because I hate Floowandereeze. Floowandereeze is a nightmare matchup. Obviously, Statue says we can only special summon Wind, and there is nothing but water in our entire main or extra deck outside of hand traps. So Mistaken Arrest is insane versus Floowandereeze. It's also really just like one of the most blowout Go First cards I think I've played in a side deck in a while. Like, it really just destroys entire turns. And it doesn't affect your deck too much outside of like Sea Angel usually, if you make that on the follow-up. But also this card is not a trap, which means it can't be red rebooted, which I really like that as well. So it doesn't lose to back row hate, it doesn't lose to a lot of things, so those 2. And then the last 2 Go First cards are the 2 Goes and Match. This card is really good in your deck because obviously it doesn't hurt you at all. And then you also have Stealth Kraken, which means you have sort of a cheese with Goes and Match with Stealth Kraken for instant wins. And you have so many spell and trap negates on your end board that you can protect it. Like, this card's actually just so good in this deck. So I do play 2. I only side it in if the matchup's good. Like, I'm not going for Kraken Goes and Match as a win condition. So I won't like side this in versus Salamangreat. But if it's already good in the matchup, then I'm siding it in, and then still Kraken is like an extra bonus. But yeah, that is the entire deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, Marincess is definitely a deck I enjoy a lot, which is probably why this deck profile was so long. I just love talking about the deck. I love playing the deck. And the most unfortunate thing is that, like, Splight is coming out soon, and Tier Elements are coming out soon, and, like, the meta is going to shift to a point where I think Marincess won't be able to keep up. So we're in a really interesting period in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where there's going to be about a month of Marincess's release where the deck can actually function and play in an environment where it can thrive. And that's why I just want to do as much Marincess content as I can now, because I definitely see a Marincess content drought once the format shifts, and I'll probably be playing Exo Sister. But yeah, absolutely love this deck. If you like the video, leave a like down below, and you know, feel free to subscribe. You can also leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to read that. Maybe you want to talk about Marincess, or you know, some of the matchups you want to talk about, or card choices. I'll be sure to read those. But if you did, again, like this video, and this has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.